Millionaire makes a bet to win a waitress and is surprised by her story. When was the last time you made a bet that could change your life forever? For many, this may sound like an exciting adventure, but for Sophia, a young waitress in a small coffee in the busy city of New York, this question brings out deep fears and unfulfilled longings. Sophia always dreamed of being an artist, capturing the essence of life in her paintings, but reality forced her to deal with the exhausting routine of meeting tables and juggling between accounts and undone dreams. With a radiant smile that hides her insecurities, she navigates the daily demands, but in her heart, the struggle for survival consumes her. Sophia is a dreamer, but also a vulnerable woman. His eyes, bright and full of hope, contrast with the dark circles that denounce sleepless nights. Art, which should be your passion, was relegated to a mere memory, a distant echo of a future that seems increasingly unreachable. She lives in a small apartment in Brooklyn, where the walls are adorned with her attempts to capture the beauty of the world, but the lack of resources prevents her from following her true desire. Every day she finds herself stuck between the desire to create and the need to survive, struggling to balance the two realities that shock each new morning. The scenario in which Sophia lives is relentless. The city that never sleeps is also a place where dreams are often crushed under the weight of expectations and reality. The coffee where it works, although welcoming, is a microcosm of urban struggles, where competition is fierce and survival depends on a wire. His equally overloaded co-workers exchange stories of frustration and hope, but in the midst of this camaraderie, Sophia feels isolated, as if she were in a bubble of solitude, surrounded by people but without a true sense of belonging. The central conflict of history is triggered when a millionaire, Alex, enters the scene. He is the opposite of Sophia, confident, extravagant, and surrounded by a life of privileges. Alex, tired of his superficial and bored life for the lack of emotion, decides to make a bet with a friend, winning a waitress's heart in a month. For him, this is just a challenge, a way to escape monotony. However, when he meets Sophia, he comes across a reality he never imagined. The coldness of his bet becomes an unexpected involvement as he discovers the sacrifices she made to survive. What started as a game turns into a self-discovery journey, where both characters are forced to confront their vulnerabilities. The pressure that Sophia feels increases as Alex becomes a constant presence in her life. He urges her to question her choices, her priorities, and what really means to fight for a dream. While Alex tries to understand Sophia's depth of life, she, in turn, is divided between her attraction and the fear that he is just another rich man in search of fun. What began as a bet becomes an emotional conflict, where Sophia's desire for a better future collides with her past insecurities and experiences. The emotional impact of this relationship goes beyond the crossroads they both face. Sophia's vulnerability becomes evident as she deals with the scars of a past full of challenges. Each interaction with Alex the force to confront his beliefs about love, confidence, and what it really means to be seen. On the other hand, Alex discovers that the superficiality of his millionaire life cannot fill the emptiness he feels, and the connection he develops with Sophia leads him to question his own priorities. Thus, the story unfolds in a tangle of emotions and challenges, revealing not only the struggles of Sophia and Alex, but also the complexities of a world where love, dream, and survival often seem impossible to reconcile. In a scenario full of uncertainty, Alex's bet is not limited to winning the heart of a waitress. It turns into a journey of transformation for both, where true victory lies in understanding and embracing their vulnerabilities. Sophia felt the weight of her routine as an anchor that dragged her into the bottom of a sea of uncertainty. With each passing day, the dreams that were once vibrant and colorful became increasingly pale, overshadowed by the constant struggle to pay the rent and the bills. Coffee, a place that should be a refuge and source of inspiration, was becoming a trap, where monotony and frustration intertwined in the conversations of clients and the nerve laughs of their colleagues. Among these voices, there was Clara, a colleague who always encouraged her not to give up her art, but who, like Sophia, also struggled to keep up. Clara, with her vibrant spirit and encouraging words, was an anchor amid chaos, but Clara's own struggle became increasingly evident, which generated a new layer of concern in Sophia. When Alex began attending coffee, at first, Sophia saw no more than an extravagant and curious client. However, as his interactions became more frequent, Alex's bet became a shadow that hung over Sophia's life. The idea that he was there for a challenge, a simple bet, made her apprehensive. With every smile he cast him, with every conversation he shared, Sophia felt divided between the growing attraction and the distrust that invaded her. She wondered if he really saw her or if she was just interested in the idea of winning a simple girl full of dreams, as if that were a way to redeem herself from her superficial life. As the days passed, The pressure increased. The friendship that began to graduate between the two was full of challenges. Sophia was forced to confront her deepest fears, such as the possibility of opening to someone who, in her vision, was the opposite of everything she knew. Alex's kind gestures, who once enchanted her, began to cause discomfort that she couldn't ignore. What would happen when he knew the true extension of his struggle? When he saw the walls of his small apartment adorned with unfinished paintings, the representations of a life she wanted, but couldn't have. Meanwhile, Sophia's financial situation became increasingly critical. The coffee was not having the expected movement, and the tips diminished. Clara, in her own battle, began to miss work, dealing with personal problems that made her increasingly distant. Sophia felt alone and vulnerable, facing the possibility of not being able to pay the rent next month. Fear consumed her, and the nights in the clear became increasingly frequent. She wondered if it was worth keeping fighting for a dream that seemed to be distancing more and more. Alex, on the other hand, was seeing himself attracted to a life he had never considered before. He tried to understand Sophia's complexity, but his own life was full of superficiality and expectations. The bet, which began as a mere challenge, now became a moral dilemma. He saw himself divided between the fun of the game and the growing connection he felt for Sophia. However, as he deepened in her life, he was also beginning to see the challenges she faced and the pain she carried. The reality of Sophia's struggles confronted him with questions he had never considered, leading him to rethink his priorities and what he really meant to love someone. The unfolding of the relationship between them began to affect their lives in unexpected ways. Sophia, increasingly confusing, saw himself in an emotional maze. She wanted to believe that Alex was different, that he truly saw her, but the voices of her insecurity echoed in her mind. The interactions became a battlefield between the desire to open and the fear of being wounded. At the same time, Alex fought the expectations of his social circle, where superficiality was the norm. His friends, who saw him as someone who should be with a woman of his level, began to question his choices, and this only increased the pressure on him. The challenges that emerged were not only individual but also collective, involving their social circles, their identities and their aspirations. Sophia struggled to assert herself in a world that often did not value her as an artist, and Alex's battle against the pressure of being a millionaire who did not fit the expected molds, brought out classes of class, value and authenticity. In the midst of this emotional storm, hope and desire for transformation remained, but the way to fulfillment seemed increasingly hazy. The interactions between the two became a reflection of their internal struggles. Every moment of vulnerability revealed not only Sophia's weaknesses, but also Alex's fears. The connection that was formed between them was intense, but at the same time, full of uncertainty. Would they be able to overcome the challenges that life imposed on them? And most importantly, would they be able to find a path that respected their individualities, allowing them to bloom, rather than being consumed by each other's expectations? Sophia felt more and more suffocated by the pressure surrounding her. Coffee was facing a severe financial crisis, and with that, the cuts of hours of work began to become a reality. With Clara away, immersed in her own emotional problems, Sophia found herself alone in an environment that was once a refuge. The conversations that once cheered her now turned into murmurs of despair and frustration, reflecting the desolation she felt inside. One day, while clearing tables, he heard a conversation between two customers about closing coffee due to the lack of customers. That news hit her as a blow, causing her anxiety to increase. Moreover, Alex, who once seemed to be a light in the darkness, began to behave strangely. He was farther away, as if fighting with his own demons. Insecurity and doubt began to erode the confidence that Sophia had slowly built. She wondered if he really saw her or was just experiencing a new phase of her life as a way to escape her own problems. With each meeting, the tension increased, and the connection that once seemed so promising was beginning to turn into a minefield of unvivid emotions. The turning point occurred on a particularly difficult night. Upon returning home, Sophia received a message from Clara, asking for help. His friend had faced a personal crisis and was on the brink of emotional collapse. Sophia, despite her own difficulties, was compelled to help. Upon arriving at Clara's apartment, she found her friend in a pitiful state, surrounded by empty bottles and sketches of works that would never be finalized. What should be an act of solidarity quickly became a nightmare. Sophia did not know how to deal with the situation, and the emotional pressure she faced made her reconsider how much she could still sacrifice himself for someone who was in a descendant spiral. Meanwhile, Alex was in a dilemma. His friends, who often surrounded him at parties and social events, began to question his intentions. They couldn't understand what he saw in Sophia, an artist struggling to keep up. The conversations became heavy, and Alex found himself stuck between the expectation of his social class and the desire to explore something more authentic. External pressure began to affect his mental health, leading him to move further from Sophia, as if it could resolve his internal conflicts. At that moment, Sophia found herself in a dead end. She was exhausted, emotionally worn out by Clara's struggles and the uncertainty of her relationship with Alex. The idea of giving up her dreams haunted her. At that point, the reality of his financial situation began to weigh more. The rent won soon, and the threat of being dumped became more concrete every day. The art that always inspired her now seemed like a distant memory, a part of her that she could no longer access. The walls of his apartment, once full of colors and life, now only reflected his despair. Sophia began to question everything. Why did you still fight? What did you really mean dreaming? The struggle for survival seemed to overshadow the brilliance of his creativity, and the idea of failing consuming her. What could she do to change her reality? The conversations that were once fluid and creative became full of hesitation and fear. The urge to open to Alex turned into an emotional blockade, and each time he tried to approach, she retreated, fearing it was just a game for him. Clara's difficulties, which at another time would be an opportunity for mutual growth, became an anchor that pulled Sophia even lower. While trying to help her friend, Sophia realized she was getting lost in her own battles, being sucked by a cycle of despair. The friendship that previously seemed unknowable was now at risk, and that made her even more distressed. In the midst of this crisis, an unexpected event occurred. Alex, realizing the growing distance between them, decided to act. He showed up at the cafe in afternoon, determined to confront Sophia about what was happening. The followed conversation was tense, full of unlisted questions and repressed feelings. Alex, for the first time, exposed his insecurities, revealing that the initial bet had become irrelevant to him. What really mattered was Sophia. This moment became a watershed. Sophia, confronted with Alex's vulnerability, began to realize that perhaps there was a chance to be truly transparent with each other. But the real question still remained. Could they break the barriers that separated them, or the external pressure and the internal struggles would consume them before they could find out what it really meant to love and be loved? The tension was in the air, and their future hung on the scale, ready to be shaped by their choices, fears, and hopes. Sophia was in a state of emotional exhaustion, not knowing if she could stand another night in that spiral of despair. In coffee, the atmosphere weighed like a dark cloud, and the conversation with Alex had left her restless, as if something was about to happen. She felt like a spectator in her own life, unable to take the reins of her situation. However, what she did not know was that the moment of transformation was approaching, an event that would change not only the trajectory of her life, but also the dynamics of her relationships. The next morning, an email arrived unusually early. It was a call for a community art exhibition that would take place in the city center. The proposal was simple: local artists could present their work, and part of the collection would be intended to help small business in difficulties, such as coffee where Sophia worked. Sophia's heart fired by reading that email. It was a golden opportunity, a chance to rescue your art and perhaps save coffee at the same time. However, anxiety quickly got over her. What would happen if she couldn't create something that was worth it? What if no one was interested in his work? Sophia decided to go to the event, even with fear consuming her. Upon arriving, the vibrant energy of the exhibition involved it. Artists from all over were sharing their stories and works, each loaded with emotion and struggle. She was absorbed by the conversations, the laughs and solidarity that permeated the space. This made her reflect on her own battles and the importance of not letting himself down. What was once a battlefield, now it seemed like a space of possibilities. When it came to present, Sophia felt a cold in her belly. But when looking at the audience, he saw known faces: Alex, Clara, and even some coffee customers. Their presence encouraged her to talk about her struggles and hopes. She showed her works, each representing a part of her journey, and for the first time in a long time, she felt a wave of relief. People were listening, they were caring. The connection she felt with that audience made her realize that her work was not only a representation of her difficulties, but also a form of resistance and empowerment. At the end of the presentation, someone approached and praised his work, offering the opportunity to expose some of his pieces in a local gallery. The feeling of recognition involved her as a warm hug, as if all her insecurities were being dissipated. Sophia realized that even in the midst of chaos, there was room for creation and beauty. However, this new light brought with it a new challenge. Clara, seeing her shine, began to feel threatened. The pressure that had accumulated between the two friends now turned into rivalry, and this caused Sophia to wonder what really mattered, her friendship or her success. She found herself before a crossroads. Should she support Clara in her crisis, even if it meant sacrificing her own opportunity, or should she move on, embracing her art and the chance of a new beginning? The return to coffee was marked by a mixture of feelings. Alex was there, and his gaze was full of admiration, but also of worry. He knew that Sophia's success could mean a greater distance between them, but at the same time she felt that it was this growth that could finally unite her insecurities. Sophia, in turn, felt stronger and more vulnerable than ever. The idea of leaving his insecurities behind and embracing his potential was beginning to prevail. That night, as he looked through the window of his apartment, Sophia reflected on what had happened. The event had been a watershed. She had not only shown her art, but also rediscovered. Now she needed to make a decision that would define her life. Clara's struggle for her art and friendship would lead her to a new path. What would she do next? The balance was balanced between the love of creativity and the complexities of human relations. Sophia knew that the future was in her hands, and the only thing she could do was advance with courage, even in the face of uncertainty. Sophia felt her heart trigger upon entering breakfast the morning she announced her own exhibition. The tension in the air was palpable. The previously welcoming and familiar space now seemed like a silent battlefield between them. Clara, with her usual shine, seemed colder, as if Sophia's light was overshadowing hers. The look they exchanged was a mixture of challenges and resentment, each fighting for their own identity, while the friendship that once united them threatened to fade. Clara's exhibition was scheduled for next month, and upon hearing her plans, Sophia felt like being pushed into a corner. The idea of competing with her friend, being seen as a rival, consumed her. She knew that if she really wanted to assert herself as an artist, she would need to go beyond what she had already achieved. But that also meant giving up a part of herself, the support that always gave Clara. It was a dilemma that plagued it, and the pressure intensified every day. On a particularly tense night, Clara confronted her. "You don't mind that it affects us, do you? Just think of yourself." The words cut Sophia like a knife. The weight of truth was there, and she couldn't deny that the search for success was distancing her from everything she had loved. But at the same time, this was the opportunity she had expected so much. Sophia took a deep breath, her mind spinning between anger and sadness. What did she really want? What was more important, recognition or friendship? With a heavy heart, he decided that he needed time alone to reflect. That night, while the stars flashed outside, she revisited her memories, her aspirations, and especially what art meant to her. It was more than fame, more than applause. It was a way of expressing your truth, of connecting with the world. The next day, Sophia made a decision. She approached Clara in the cafe, feeling the nervousness to consume. "We need to talk," he said with a firm voice despite the fragility he felt inside. Clara looked at her suspicious, but nodded. The following conversation was intense and painful, full of tears and outbursts. Sophia opened her heart, expressing not only her fears, but also her admiration for Clara and her desire that both could shine. "I don't want it to separate us," said Sophia, the embargoed voice. "Art must be a support space, not competition. We can do this together." The words were hanging in the air, an invitation to reconciliation. Clara hesitated, but Sophia's vulnerability seemed to play something inside her. "I don't want that either," he replied, his voice shaking. "I'm just afraid of losing myself in your success." Tension finally began to dissipate, and a new understanding began to form among them. Sophia realized that true strength was in the ability to support each other, to celebrate achievements, and at the same time face the insecurities that came to light. They decided that instead of competing, they could unite their exhibitions, creating a space that represented both. The idea of a collaborative exhibition began to take shape, and with that, a new chapter opened for both of them. The day of the exhibition arrived, and a wave of emotion has taken over the coffee. The union of his works not only attracted a larger audience, but also brought renewed energy to space. Sophia and Clara, side by side, received compliments and recognition, but most importantly found a new sense of purpose and friendship. Sophia realized that true victory was not just about individual success, but about the ability to overcome the emotional barriers that held her. The connection she and Clara rebuilt not only strengthened her souls, but also illuminated the way to a new phase in her lives. They were ready to face the future together, transforming rivalry into an unqualified bond of support and love. The feeling of relief and joy was contagious, and Sophia knew that when embracing her art and friendship, she had finally found her place in the world. The previously unsurpassed internal struggle now became a testimony of resilience and growth. She had not only overcome her fears, but she had also discovered that true strength lies in the ability to connect, learn, and create together. The weeks following the collaborative exhibition brought a wave of renewal and hope to Sophia and Clara. The success of the event not only raised its artistic careers, but also strengthened the bond that had almost been lost between them. Friendship, once threatened by the competition, now flourished in a mutual support environment. They started working together on new projects, exploring ideas that they would not have considered before, and their creativity expanded in ways that both could not imagine. Sophia reflected on the journey that had taken her there. She acknowledged that her insecurities and fears of failure had been the true obstacles in her way, not Clara's presence. The recognition he sought was not just a personal goal, but an expression of his truth, and this truth was now intertwined with his friends. Looking back, Sophia realized that the competition that once fed her now seemed trivial in the face of the joy of sharing experiences and successes. Art, once a space of rivalry, has become a fertile field of collaboration and growth. Clara, in turn, felt more confident than ever. The collaborative exhibition not only brought new admirers to his work, but also reaffirmed his role as an artist. She understood that Sophia's support did not make her less talented. On the contrary, their friendship was a source of strength that raised them to a new level. Clara began to explore new techniques and themes, inspired by the freedom she felt to be able to share her creative process with someone who really understood her struggles and aspirations. The impact of the exhibition also resonated on the local artistic community. The two artists, now recognized as a powerful duo, began to receive invitations to collaborate on community projects. They became mentors for young artists, sharing not only their technical skills, but also the lessons learned about friendship and support. The transformation of their lives has inspired others to rethink their own rivalries and to value collaboration. Sophia realized that the true meaning of success was not only in renowned exhibitions or awards, but in the ability to create a space where everyone could shine. She was fulfilled to see other people flourish under her guidance, and this motivated her to continue her artistic journey with a new purpose. The solidarity that cultivated in their personal lives reverberated in their professional interactions, creating a support network that extended beyond them. As time passed, Sophia and Clara continued to explore their art together, participating in fairs, exhibitions, and social projects. They learned to celebrate every little achievement, always remembering that true strength lies in the union. Their friendship has become an example of how female empowerment can manifest when women support each other, creating a positive impact not only on their lives, but also on the lives of many other people. Sophia was at peace with herself. She had found a balance between her ambitions and the value of the relationships she cultivated. The transformation he came to realize in his life was a reflection of the growth he experienced alongside Clara. With a heart full of gratitude, she understood that her way as an artist was also a journey of self-knowledge and resilience. Now, when looking at the future, Sophia knew that true art was not just about what is created, but about the stories that are shared and the connections that are made. Their journey was a testimony that, even in the face of adversity, it was possible to be reborn and redefine what it means to succeed. The love and support they offered were the most vibrant colors of their lives, and this was reflected in every brush, every work that created together, now more united than ever. And so, with a new breath of life and a solidified friendship, Sophia and Clara were ready to face any challenge that the future reserved, knowing that together they could create not only art, but a legacy of love and solidarity that would inspire many others. As you have seen, friendship and collaboration can turn lives, even into challenging situations like Sophia and Clara. Now, I want to know about you. How did this journey play your heart? Have you ever faced something similar in your life? Leave your comment below, and we will share stories that can inspire other people. And if you liked this message and believe it can make a difference in someone's life, be sure to enjoy the video and share it. Finally, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell to continue following more stories like this. Your participation is what makes this space so special.